Hello and welcome to this video where we've come into Python conventions. And this video is super good for you to make sure that you write the code in a way that is easy for other Python developers to read and reason about. If you follow a typical style, then it's easier for Python developers to understand. And if you're working with other languages, they have other types of style. Remember that it's a little bit different for different languages, but in Python, there's a certain type of style. So let's go into the browser actually now. So here I am in the browser and I have gone into this repository that is called Python course that is linked in this series so that you can go and watch that one and you can see this code. And here I have a note on the conventions in Python. So Python, they have an official style guide on how to write a good style in Python in order to have readability and consistency. So this is a good reference material. So if you go and look into this one, you can see this is quite long, right? So there's a lot of things. So for example, if you're imports, you can go into imports and see how you should do it. For example, you shouldn't do import, you should do import always import the wrong styling to do. But you can, however, do from somewhere, for example, subprocess, import and pipe. So you can import several things like this. So this is like a style guide that is good to follow. And however, as you can see, there's too many things here. So I've just condensed a few of them. Maybe I will make a new video later on if I have more styles or conventions that I think are important. However, I will just keep this simple and short as this is the first video in Python conventions that I make. So starting here, usually when you write variables and function names, it's very important that you have snake case. And snake case means that you can see it as, okay, it's a snake is quite low, right? Low as in lowercase. So we have lowercase letters, and then we have underscore the next word, and then we have underscore the third word, etc. Which means lowercase for all letters and underscore to separate words. For example, you want to write a variable called area circle area, so circle underscore area, right? And here for class names, we can actually zoom in a little bit. So for class names, you use Pascal case. So Pascal case means you have upper first character for each word. So Pascal is the first word, and then case is the second word. So then you have P and C, and the rest of the characters are lowercase. So this is Pascal case, and in some other languages, they might have Pascal case for variable name, or they have something called camel case, which means lower first word, and then uppercase for each first letter for each word that comes afterwards. That is called camel case, so you should know about snake case, Pascal case, and camel case. But in Python, for variables and function names, we have snake case, and class names, we have Pascal case. And then very important is that we have clear and readable naming. So the names of your variables, functions, classes should be readable rather than short and abbreviated. So for example, here, it's better to have calculate discount, and then you put in each of the variable names. So it's like self-documenting code. So by reading this one, I understand what this code does. While this one, def disk p, d, and then these code are doing the same thing. However, this is really hard to read and understand. So you have shortened it too much. Or I have shortened it too much. So that's a little bit bad because I don't know what disk means. I don't know what P means or D means. While this one, calculate discount, I understand it directly. However, short variables, they can be used as iteration variable. For example, for I in range 5. So this is totally okay if you're using it as iteration variable. And then for iteration variables, I haven't written it out here, but I, J are quite common. And if you're looking for rows and columns, you can do row and col. So these are good short variable names. In Python, as you may know, it's dynamically typing. So this means that the type is inferred during runtime. However, in many cases, you do want to have exact typing, right? And in order to do that, in Python, we have type hints. And type hinting is a way for hinting to the user what types should be put in. For example, here we have a function add numbers, and we want the first number to be int, the second number to be int, and it returns an int, for example. If we want to have int or float, we could have a bar, which means or, float. If you want to loop through a list tuple, you should choose a descriptive variable. For example, here, this is fruits, and then fruit in fruits. And this is usually what I do when I want to loop through a list or other sequences. I usually use plural, so I have an S here, and then for each of the item, I usually use the word that is in singular form, so without the S. So in this way, you know that each item is a fruit here, right? However, when you want to iterate over something, but you don't want to use that variable, you should use a underscore to denote it. So the underscore is just a normal variable. However, when you see it as an underscore, as a Python developer, you should know that, we're not using this iteration variable inside of the loop. So in this loop, this for statement, I just want to iterate 5 times. I don't care about what the iteration variable should be. And then there's some more when we come into classes, or functions. We can define functions as private. We can't define it as private in Python because private doesn't exist in Python. However, what you want to do is you want to indicate that it's private. So you use a naming convention by doing an underscore before it. So when you use underscore before it, then we indicate that it's private. So this means that other Python developers in your team or seeing libraries, when they see an underscore before a function, they know that they shouldn't touch it or touch it on their own risk. Note that this is by convention, so you can still access the variable or their function. And also there's private with name mangling. So name mangling means that you do 2 underscores. Let me decrease it a little bit. So what you do is you have this myvar, and here should be two underscores, which means that it will become the class name underscore myvar. So Python will automatically change it when you define it with underscore. However, you can still access this variable directly. So it's still not private, it's just private with name mangling. And when you're working with private attributes and private methods in classes, then just make sure that you pick one that is and stick with it. Don't mix it, okay? For example, very common is that many people just use the underscore, right? And I actually prefer using just the underscore. Yes. So in this video, you have seen Python conventions, and in Python conventions, we have gone through different things such as how to write variable names, function names, snake case, and then going into what the Pascal case, when to use that, for example, in class names. and also described what camel case means so that you know that as well, even if that's not widely used in Python. And then we have more about the variable names, as in it's important to have it readable and clear readable naming better than short names. So it's better to, but short variable names is okay if you're using it for iteration variables. And then we have gone into type hinting. We've gone into using underscore in iteration variable if you're not using the iteration variable for anything. You just want to iterate a few number of times, and then an underscore is good. And then the iteration variable name, if you're looping through a list, for example, then it's good to use the singular name of the list, which could have a plural name. And then using private by convention in Python, as there isn't anything that is private. Instead, you use underscore prefix to denote that it should be private, that an attribute, a method, or a variable name. And also you have done private with name mangling. There is some more things that I haven't brought up. For example, for constants, you could name it with capital letters only, but I haven't shown that. But I hope that this video was informative for you and you learned about Python conventions. So this is good for both in a Python course and in all other courses where you use Python. It's good to know some conventions. And also, if you want to know more details, go into the page that I showed you, where there's a lot of details on how to write good looking Python code with good conventions. So thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one. Bye.